Hey everybody, TJ here with To Know Him Outdoors. Man, we're fixing to do one of the first hunter story that we've had in a while. This one is going to be with my friend Seth Wier. We actually went to high school together, didn't really run around in the same clique back in the day. But man, I hope that his story encourages you, it blesses you, and that ultimately we just glorify the Lord in this. So I look forward to seeing what he has to say, share a little bit of hunting stories, and just catch up, but ultimately glorify the Lord and celebrate his salvation. And so, man, stay tuned and hope you
Good
enjoy.
now.
Yeah, good deal. How you been doing, man?
Good, good. Getting jacked up for deer season, duck
Yeah,
season, and getting married in 2 weeks.
I
So
know.
looking
You,
forward to that.
you're a busy man. I seen, I think your post or your fiance's post talking about 2 weeks away. So the
Oh
wedding
yeah.
the wedding bells are getting warmed up, ain't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've got we I mean I think we planned everything, uh working on final seating arrangements and stuff like that. So we're
Nice.
down to the nitty gritty and getting it wasn't stressful until now and it's starting to get real and it's like there's things that we got to get done. So
Yeah. Y'all
yeah. So we're
getting married in the area?
Yeah, it's a Happy Valley Farms. It's over in Rossville, Georgia. Like
Okay.
right outside of St. Elmo.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
yeah,
pretty.
we're looking forward to it.
That's awesome, man.
Mhm.
Marriage is a beautiful thing. I'm very blessed for the wife that I have, and I know y'all two will be joined together and glorifying the Lord in it, and so it's gonna be awesome to see
Right.
y'all. I'll be praying for y'all to have many years of a blessed marriage.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. I know we enjoy. I've shown many of your family festivities to Delaney, and just kind of vicariously living through you guys. Like looking forward to a family of our own, getting to be outdoors and
Yeah,
experiencing that together. So it's going to be fun.
that's awesome. Yeah, when the kids start coming, man, it's a blessing. We got plenty of them, so we got a whole house full.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
we're fixing to add another one come September, so another life changing event is in our path too. So
Man, is it going to be? Have y'all seen the gender yet? Is it another girl?
no, it's my first boy.
Oh, and now I remember. I think
Yep,
you posted about that. That
yep.
man, that has got to be something special there.
Yeah, it was funny. Whenever my wife, she's done this blood test that's been like 100% with all of her kids. Like she'll send
Yeah,
it in. It's really early. It's really neat how they do it. Um, but we got the results and we was on the porch and she's like, "You ready to open it up?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." So
yeah.
being another girl, I'm like the statistics of me having a boy has gotten really slim, you know. And
Oh man.
when you open the app up or like the email or whatever, it'll like pop up girl or boy with like blue confetti or pink confetti or whatever.
Yeah.
And man, it popped up boy, and I like flipped out, freaking out,
Oh
running,
man.
and well, I got emotional, and
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
well, make long story short, my brother he passed away, last May,
Yeah.
and I'm the last Givens with my dad's bloodline. It was just me and Hunter, my little brother, and so I sort of like carried a little bit of like, man, like this is it, this is the end. Like I don't have any
Yeah.
boy to carry on the bloodline, and I just like emotional. I got really emotional, thinking the Lord is just so good and like to bless us because we weren't trying. But if I look at my wife too long, we tend to
Oh
have
yeah.
kids,
Well,
and
that's a good sign.
yeah. And so she was like, "You didn't get this emotional with all the girls." I'm like, "I did, but this is different somehow."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I know it's not that you're praying to not have girls, but
mhm.
every hunter dreams of having a little hunting buddy.
Yeah,
And I know that your girls are now. I see them going out and shooting bows with you and stuff. Maybe one day, hopefully, they'll be into trying to get into hunting and stuff.
yeah,
But the Lord works in mysterious ways, that's for sure.
yeah,
And even though it wasn't planned, it was planned in His mind.
yep,
That's for
yep.
sure. So
It
yeah,
was
that's great to hear.
a little blessing that we didn't know we needed. So everyone's excited. And funny story, our oldest daughter, whenever we told her, she told us she'd been praying for a little brother. I said,
Really?
well, the Lord answered your prayers because it's happening.
That's right.
You know?
He answered yours and Daddy's, even
Yeah.
though he didn't expect it. I
Yeah.
know that that's going to be something that you're going to enjoy,
Yeah.
and that's awesome.
Well, enough about me, man. I appreciate you coming on here. I know we had to push it back a little bit. You know, my wife had to
Yeah,
take
man.
the oldest to the gym and stuff, and so I know it's something we've been wanting to do for quite a while. You know,
Yeah.
hop on here and the hunter story. You know, the to know them outdoors. I always try to say it is like the vision or the meaning behind the hunter stories to come on here. You know, share some hunts. You know, talk a little bit of hunting and stuff. What your season looked like last year. What's going to look like this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we'll roll into just the faith aspect of it. You know, I got men on
Okay.
here, and typically it's men that I trust that I've seen that have a walk with the Lord, and you can share once we get into it as much as you want to, as deep as you want
Okay.
to. And I'll leave that up to you and the Lord. I just tell guys, hey, there may be something that you could share that another guy here that he may relate to, you know.
That's right.
But don't feel pressured to share any, the deep dark secrets if you don't want to. You know, I know there's some discernment and some wisdom in some things. You know, we can sort of not put on air or whatever, as you will.
Right. Yeah.
But if you don't mind, man, sort of tell the people who you are and what you've been up to, and we'll just start. We'll just see where it goes.
Yeah, man. So, as you know, TJ, you and I grew up together. For the most part, we weren't super close in high school.
Hmm.
We kind of had the different running groups, but nonetheless, I went to UT for college, got a degree in supply chain management, and started working for a brokerage and a freight brokerage. And I enjoyed it for the most part. I leading up to that, I had been kind of not really sure where I wanted to go with everything.
Mm.
And when I got into the freight brokerage, I started realizing 4 or 5 years into it that it kind of wasn't for me. The At the time I thought it was, but the more I got into it, in order to be successful in my uh, venture with it, it felt like there was some sort of deceit at some point, and some stuff that didn't really seem too ethical.
Mm.
And it's not to say that that's how brokerages work, but in general, that line of work, there was a lot of trying to make promises you wouldn't be able to deliver on,
Yep.
and things like that. And I kind of started knowing that I needed to move to something different. And might be the first time I've actually kind of publicly announced it, but I actually had a pretty nasty injury that a lot of people can probably learn from. I was in Knoxville, I'd gotten in that, knowing I needed to move, but I was stuck in the place I was at that company. I was not trying to progress myself in the ways I should have been. I was just kind of in that place.
Mm.
And I've been praying for some clarity on where to go with that. And I wasn't really feeling like I had very, I guess, visible options at the time. And I ended up having a diagnosis of COVID. It was in 2021 when COVID was real prevalent.
Hmm.
And I came home from work that day, and I started making some salmon, trying to get myself feeling better, eating some healthy food. And I started working on my Glock. And long story short, I'd fired that gun probably 2,000 times, and I had just gotten complacent with it, got quick with my actions, and I put in a mag that was loaded that I thought wasn't. And as soon as I clicked that mag in, I went, I don't need to load that. And I grabbed the slide and my fingers on the trigger, and it went off.
Mm.
And it went in the bottom of my hand here and came out the back. You can see that my hand is my middle finger is a little short on this side when
Yeah.
I line them up. So, the Lord, the doctor worked his magic through, whatever techniques they have. They did a few surgeries, but they saved my hand to where I can still operate it. It's still functional
Yeah.
for the most part. I didn't lose it. But the moral of that story is that I was stuck in a place that I didn't really know how bad of a place I was in.
Mm,
And that injury at the time was like how much worse can this get?
mm,
And luckily, I grew up with a very supportive family system. My father, when I called him that night when that happened, he immediately came up, rushed up there, spent the next few days with me. With having COVID, they didn't want to see me in the hospital.
mm.
So they were like, we could look at you, but we're not going to be able to operate for a week. So they wanted me to sit with my hand blown into
Oh,
smithereens for a week wrapped up. And my dad, you know, worked his magic, got me in Chattanooga. So he came, picked me up in Knoxville, took me to Chattanooga, and I had the surgery there.
you're driving with your hand
And
blowed up.
well, he picked me up. Luckily, I was very fortunate for him. He actually, not to get too gruesome, but he helped clean up the scene,
Yeah.
and that's something I couldn't do. I'd walked all around the house, and
Yeah.
it got messy, and luckily I had him to help me clean my house up before he helped me pack up, and we went back to Chattanooga.
I guess I meant
And
you rode with your dad with it all the way to
yes,
Chattanooga.
yes,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just like, well, let's backtrack a little bit. I did go to I called 911 that evening. They took me to the hospital. The surgeon would not see me
Mm.
to operate to get it fixed. So I went to the emergency room that evening. They just wrapped it up essentially
Oh, okay.
and just
Yeah.
said you need to go home. And then the next day I went to see the surgeon. That's when they told me that I couldn't be operated on for a week. It was almost like 10 days, I think.
Mm.
And my dad got me in down in Chattanooga. They kind of took me in the back door, essentially. No pun intended. I mean, I went on the back side. They wrapped me up straight into the operating room, and they fixed it as best they could.
Mm.
And they ended up having to do a few surgeries on it. But the moral of that story is more so that I had this whole plan of I'm gonna find the right thing. It's on my dime.
Mm.
I'm gonna make the decisions and direct my, path wherever it needs to go. And that couldn't have been a bigger blessing.
Mm.
That situation right there could not have been a bigger blessing at the time than I could possibly imagine.
Wow.
It brought me out of the toxic style work environment I was in. It gave me more time to be with my dad, and it ultimately prepared me to meet my soon to be wife.
Mm.
And I don't think any of those situations would have unfolded the way they did without having that structure.
Yeah.
So, that in itself is a huge testament to the whole, I always go back to the verse Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's God's plan that'll prevail.
Hmm.
And that and we always know that God's plan's good.
Yeah.
And that verse, the reason I had that in my heart was what I just correlated that to a similar situation in not even a remotely impactful nature, but um, as I lost my mom
Mm.
back in 2019 to pancreatic cancer, and I spent a lot of time in that time looking for, reasons why this is happening, why this happened.
Mm.
But it all comes down to when you start looking for reasons on why this, why that, you start trying to play the illustrator and
Mm.
not the illustrated. The Lord is the master artist,
Hmm.
and it's more so instead of asking why are you doing all of these things, it's more so like help me to understand, or help to give me clarity that I know that this plan is your plan.
Yeah. Not the
You know,
why, but like what's, what's the like what am I here? Like what's next,
that's right. Like,
Yeah.
help me find what is the good in it.
Yeah.
There's good in every situation.
Mm,
I truly believe that. And that those two hand in hand, my mom, her battle is a whole separate subject, but
mm,
the whole thing with her battle was it it I was it distanced me from the Lord, I'll say
mm.
that much, for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And that period of time, I'll say this, my mom was my rock.
Yeah.
My dad is my hunting buddy. He's the the guy that's always there when I need him for anything related to life.
Yeah.
And then there's mom that I can talk to about the things like I've always gotten her approval on, girlfriends, relationships, and like
Hmm.
all of that. So, losing her was a whole different ball game, but the grand scheme of that whole thing was looking for the good in it,
Hmm.
because there's good in that situation. And at the time I didn't look at it that way. I was like everyone would be, I feel like, is why me, why
Yeah.
this, why my mom has done nothing but be healthy with her body. She's worked for the Lord. She never curses, and I'm just like, there's got to be a reason behind that. And it all came clear. I mean, it was leading up to her funeral, but through that whole process, not only was she positive, she rejoiced the Lord,
Hmm.
and all she wanted to do was to make sure that everyone else around her was okay.
Yeah.
And the day of her funeral, I'll never forget the amount of people that were there. And that alone was the settling factor. It's like I now know the good in it.
Mm.
The good in it was that she brought all of these people she touched in her life, some way or another, and she exemplified what most people couldn't do, but through the Holy Spirit and through you being able to keep her focused on you through all that.
Yeah.
And that was something that I'll never be able to comprehend. There's so many things that were blessings in that, and that were also at the time, and it goes back to the timing thing. It's God's timing, his plan. I looked at it at that time, horrible. Obviously, it's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, boy, would I love to have my mom at my wedding.
Mm.
But boy, do I know that she is in a place that is so much greater than all of
Yeah.
this world of sin and deceit. And I mean, we live in a broken and fallen world.
Absolutely.
And the faster that you get to that place of power and that holy place in the hands of your father, I feel like is fine with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
but going into that I I searched that whole time trying to find through her, I don't want to say, through her sickness, I guess.
Hmm.
I searched for things to cope with it. And I would go, you know, jumping from hobby to hobby and this to this, like what is going to fulfill this like virtue?
Hmm.
And it was a mixture of fly fishing and deer hunting. I mean, at the end of the day, that those years I got real into tying flies
Yeah.
and getting on the water to clear my head,
Hmm.
like
And you make
that.
some pretty sweet ones. I've seen them.
Well, I've since not continued that trend. I've still got
Hmm.
all the stuff. I need to keep doing it, but that whole avenue. There's something about fly fishing that's. I mean, deer hunting is similar because you're still getting out into the peace and quiet,
Yeah.
but I find it hard to silence your mind as much as you can fly fishing as you can deer hunting, because every cast is. I've got to make sure that drift is exactly where it needs to be, that the line is reacting how I need it to be.
Yeah.
And if you can also go out there and have your mind on something else and probably not catch anything, you know. But if you want to catch fish, it's you can focus on that and
Yeah.
all of that stuff in your head just stops.
Dude, if I try
And
to fly fishing, my mind's on what am I doing? You know?
well, I mean that's a whole the fly fishing that helped me tremendously, but the deer hunting, turkey hunting, the hunting in general,
Yeah.
there's benefits to all of the above. Quail hunting, duck hunting, turkey, deer. Deer is the ultimate zone for the reflection.
Yeah.
That's where you can reflect. And that's where you can sit there and think about things and have a clear mind. And the deer hunting has really gotten it goes I don't want to relate it and just keep hitting on the same thing, but the whole Lord has a plan, that
Hmm.
Proverbs 19:21 is just so crucial to every aspect of my life. Because when I go into the woods 10 years ago, I was bouncing around place to place, just searching for the next spot to hunt, looking for the next big buck, doing this, doing that. And the older I get, the more I do hunt, the more I mean, trail cameras have helped tremendously.
Yeah.
If you say they haven't and you're running them, you're lying.
Yeah.
They have changed everything. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I've really started to learn that you find the right places to spend your time and you're gonna kill the big deer.
Yeah.
It's year after year after year, the same exact spots. And if you find, and that is something that you can do it a couple years in a row, maybe. But if you really like, if you run the same trail camera on the same tree, that's one thing I like doing. Same camera, same tree, year after year after year, not moving it, not touching it, other than replacing batteries.
Hmm.
You know, that is like that's one of my tactics. But at the end of the day, my mind has shifted from the I'm in control to I'm in control of these deer to I'm in control of where I sit.
Yeah.
And it's like I can sit in a good spot. And that's also honestly the what I've started doing with my anything from life to deer hunting. I feel like, when you sit in the same place, as long as you have done your scouting, done your research, put your cams out, you found the spot, you you can rest assured that if you leave your time in that spot, you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And that is a lesson for deer hunters
Yeah.
in general and life hunters, you
Yeah.
know.
I think there's a lot of truth in that because you got two sides, right? You have the one side that is married to a tree that couldn't tell you why they're there. They'll just say, "Oh, it looks like a good spot." Or the other side is the mobile guy that won't sit in the same tree ever, right? That they're so far this
Yep.
side. And I tr- I tend to find myself somewhat in the middle. I've sort of like you. I have spots, and definitely in Tennessee because I live in Georgia now, that I put mineral sites out. My cameras are over those mineral sites for inventory. And then I can saddle hunt all around them in different trees or different trails, in the
Yep.
same areas. But if you find a core area, that holds big deer or whatever deer you want to hunt, man, what's the reason? Is it bedding? Is it water source, food source? The top I used to be was I would just look at some landscape and be like, man, this is some pretty hardwoods. There
Hmm.
has to be a deer here. And then
I
I'd
can see
be,
a long way in here. Yeah.
there has to be a
Yeah.
deer here. So I'd be
Yeah.
married to a tree and I would sit there all season and I might see like a spike or a buttonhead come walking through. Or I got lucky a couple times, rut, you never know what happens.
That's
Um,
right.
but if you can find those like my Tennessee spot, man, I know you can't see on my wall, but I think there's like $5 just on this wall here that's come out of one spot in Tennessee.
Yep.
And every year. it just produces. And I've let some walk, to sort of get to
Hmm.
and gene pools, but I think that's a lot of truth, like you said. If you just find that one spot, you can run a camera and just change the batteries, and you'll be less focused on. I think we've in the industry, you know,
Hmm.
we've uh we've created this mindset of like, man, you gotta kill the next biggest thing or gotta do it a certain way. And it's like, man, I've really tried to just keep myself focused on when I go to the woods, like I'm getting that recharge, right? Just in life,
Yeah.
you know. And you can get it physically, you can get it spiritually. Man, it's just I could only imagine your first season hunting after like losing your mom, on times in a tree that you probably just felt, so many different emotions,
Oh yeah.
I know I did the first season after when my brother passed away is crazy. I put his hat on one hunt, just randomly. I keep it in my truck. I'm not even a Vols fan. I know you're a guy from Tennessee,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but he was a big Vols fan. I put the hat on. It was orange, and shot a doe, a tiny doe, but I just needed some meat. But dude,
Yeah.
like it wrecked me emotionally because I said in like before I got to the stand when I was driving there, it's like, I'm putting this hat on, Hunter, let's go get it done. And then I shoot a little slick head, and you would think that I just killed a giant, and
Yeah.
I think hunting, like you've been hitting on, is can just do so much for the soul. And
Yeah.
my heart sort of breaks for those guys that do it just for like the image or the like this position that it may put them in the industry. And like, dude, there's so many blessings that you're not seeing in hunting in the tradition of it.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah. If their top moment of the day is getting the right shot,
Yep.
or getting the right picture, it's which everybody's got their own hobbies, which
Hmm.
is all it's all about what your hobby's rooted in. But the you talk about the same spot, and you brought up a good point. There I heard somebody say, I don't know what podcast it was on, but there was a percentage that he came up with, and this was just like a personal calculation that his mind perceived, but he was saying that there was only like one tree on every bit of acreage that's like the tree that you're going to kill the deer out of.
Hmm.
And it's like I I don't necessarily agree with it being one tree, but I agree that there's like one 50-yard radius area
Yep.
that if your tree is within the middle of that 50-yard radius, or you're on the outside edge of it playing the wind, that
Hmm.
is it gets down to I'm starting to believe that it gets down to not 50, 80, 100 yards. Gets down to 20 to 15 yards
Yep.
difference is all it takes. So like if you see a ridge going up, and that buck's walked by your camera going up that, kind of whatever you want to call it, a drainage coming out, going up a hill. He walked by that camera the other day at 7 p.m. You know that those thermals are pulling heavy down
Hmm.
that hill. So the idea behind it is within that 50-yard range of where that camera was, where is the tree? If it's possible, it's likely not possible if it's a mature deer. Typically, they're traveling areas that are almost impossible unless you find the perfect spot to be able to kill
Hmm.
them. That's why they're so hard to kill.
Yep.
But if you find that one tree where that thermal line has got one little rise in the landscape where it's sucking down and pulling the thermals a little to the left away from where he's coming up, that is all it takes.
Yep.
10 yards of movement, and you will go from seeing no deer to seeing all three or however many mature bucks you have in that bachelor group,
Hmm.
and that the way that I had a pretty good season last year. Actually, I had a very good blessed season in terms of knowledge. Last season, I killed the buck that I had targeted. That's the first time it's happened for me where I found a buck. I found his core area, I targeted him, and I killed him before November.
That's
And that
awesome.
is something that, I've worked a long time on, and a lot of most of it's luck. I mean, it's not, but what I consider a deer that's killable is when, and a lot of them are killable, but when I get a picture on two different cameras of that same deer
Mm.
on the same walk, I know where he's going. Or
Yeah.
I know if it's the same within a 30-minute time span and those cameras are 200 yards apart, that's a pretty dang good idea of what you got to do there,
Yeah.
especially if it's in a daylight. So with that knowledge, I waited till the right time. I went in knowing that I was probably going to spook deer going in that evening, but that I just trusted that my gut was right, that he was in the spot he was where he wasn't going to get spooked by the other deer. And it all, it was such a blessing for me hunting wise. And, it's if you're trying to, my blessings come in multiple fashions, but when I'm really, really putting a lot of effort into something and passionate about it, and the Lord, and I'm praying about, Lord, give me the understanding to read this land,
Yeah.
and help me to understand what these deer are doing. He might not ever that might not result. I'm not praying for a deer.
Yeah.
I want to be able to read it better.
Yeah.
And like if you can provide me with some of that clarity, that would help me out tremendously in my confidence, And it's like he was struggling my guitar strings. And I I I, I I'm not one to pray in the tree stand that I should be like, please provide me with a
Yeah.
buck to kill.
Hmm.
I not strategically, but I really focus on just asking God to give me clarity of what He wants me to learn that day.
Mm.
And because I don't want to ever leave the stand without learning something.
Yeah.
If you leave the stand without learning something, you didn't have a successful hunt.
Yeah. Amen.
That's the
That's
way I
good.
look at it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where I'm like, I try my best unless I, screw something up where I see my target buck and he saw me and he spooks and runs. That's a whole
Hmm.
different story. But I try my best to see the positive when I don't have success, and knowing that next time I come in here, for instance, I'm going to cut 3 trees further down the hill, 10 yards further down the edge of the hill to try to get a little bit more out of sight of the deer that I spooked off that bed up above me.
Yeah.
That small little key of information, and you just add it to the bank, add it to
Yep.
the bank.
Yep.
And that's how and I've got a long way to go.
Hmm.
I still
We
look
all
at that
do.
deer I killed as luck. But I mean, I'm sure that deer you killed last year. I mean, that had to have some sort of explanation on how that unfolded to your side. I mean,
Yeah. I mean that one was just sh pure like right. I mean, I had tons of pictures of him. I was chasing him all year. He was one of three of them that I wanted to shoot,
yeah,
and we had seen 7 does that morning right at daybreak, and I had my buddy with me. He had never hunted, guy from the city, and I was trying to get him to hunt, but he didn't got his license or nothing, so we were trying to be,
yeah,
legal, I guess. But and he didn't want to shoot or anything, so I shot one of the does. So I told him, I said, "We see a deer, we're shooting it. I'm gonna let you
yeah.
get the full experience." And
Hmm.
sure enough, we just sat in a little shooting house on the field edge there, and I had him playing with some calls, playing with a little doe bleat call, showing them, hey, this is what this sounds like. That's a doe bleat. Brr, brr. That's a tendon grunt or something. And then I just look up, and through the hardwoods, I see antlers running through, and I'm like, oh crap.
Oh my
Here
goodness.
and I look, and I could see, I was like, that's a good one, So I pulled up, I had the gun, had the rifle with me, and finally got him to stop. And wild story with shooting and stuff, but got him down. It was, I mean, I knew he was in the area. He disappeared. I had him last year. He did the same thing, which he was a little bit smaller last year. Um, but you know me. If I get excited, I'm shooting it.
Yeah.
But
Hey.
he skipped out. He skipped town on me last year, and it was the last week of Tennessee. It was that final week in December. So we had like 1 week. No, it was man, I can't remember if it was December 30th. So there's like a week or so
Okay.
left.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just one of those. I knew the area. There were bucks in that area that they used it. It wasn't where my mineral sites were. It was actually just in the field where if we seen deer, he was gonna get to see them.
Yeah.
Um, but I chalk it up to luck, and the the Lord just made that happen. Um,
That's right.
but it was a good time. So how
Well, I
many?
mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you saying?
Well, I was just going to ask you, what was your friend's take on it? Was he just like
Oh yeah.
blown away at how cool it was? Like,
So
was that what?
yeah, so when we shot the doe, there was tons of does coming in, and I kept waiting, kept waiting. I mean, they just kept feeding in. I said, okay, well, hey, there may be a buck coming in behind them. It's late season. There may be one with them. And I said, but if it's not the last doe, I'm going to shoot her. That way we can
Yeah.
see it. Sure enough, and she was the biggest doe. She was a heavy doe. She was a good one. Shot
Yeah.
her, dropped her. She was probably about 100 yards out on the edge of the field. I said, well, we'll leave her. She's sort of out of the way. So had some highs, doing the old fist bump. He's like, oh, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. Well, he starts, he's freezing to death. I,
Yeah.
he borrowed a bunch of my clothes and stuff, but yeah, he just wasn't used to it. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to sit here a little bit longer. And then that's when all, the calls, the deer came. And what's wild is the deer, he was come through the field, but on the back side of the field, there's this little thick, brushy area. And he gets behind it to where through the scope, pretty much I could just barely see through it. And
Yeah.
I stop him. He finally stops, but he stops in the area I did not want him to stop at all. But he sort of looks up towards us, and I'm like, oh crap. He knows this shooting house. It's been here. And
Hmm.
so I felt pretty confident. I squeezed the trigger off. And when he took off running, my buddy, he sits there and watched me. I mean, as soon as I shot and I seen him take off running, I said, I'm an idiot. I do not know why I just did
Mm.
that. I do not know why I just did that. And he
Mm-mm.
was like, what do you mean? I was like, I just missed that deer. I know I did. And I mean, he just seen me like head down. I'm just defeated. I'm like, man, that was a
Hmm.
good buck. But the guns do that. That's why I love bow hunting. I'm more,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
guns make you confident. You can squeeze it in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we wait a few minutes. I think we sit in there another 45 minutes, an hour. I said, well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna walk down here. We're gonna go grab this doe. We're gonna go to the impact site. Dude, we get down to the impact site. I'm looking and I'm sort of lining up, where he was with the shooting house. And there's a sapling, probably about that big around. The very edge of it, you see a nick, the bullet. And
Oh.
oh my gosh. I'm like, yep.
Oh.
I said, I definitely missed this deer. And I mean, he sees me. I'm just like, I'm like, Lord, that was my
What do you
fault.
do?
I literally was like,
Yeah.
that was my fault. I said that. He said, you not mad? I said, I'm mad at myself. I said, the Lord
Yeah.
brought it and I goofed it up like I do so much. And I
Mm.
said, but I'm gonna walk down here. There's some kicked up leaves. And man, I take about 10 steps and I see a drop of blood. And I was like, well, we hit something. I said,
So
but the
you're
way
saying there's a chance.
I'm like, hey, you saying there's a chance, Lord? And but I mean one speck of blood, one drop, right? A pin drop, and I seen it on a leaf, and I seen the leaves kicked up. I said, I'm gonna walk up here to the edge, and if I don't see any more blood, then we're gonna back out for a minute, get her cut up. We might come back, and look. I said, because I hit them. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Follow the kicked up leaves, no blood at all. I'm like, I done like nicked him in the belly or something. I don't know. And man, we get to the edge of the field and he's laid against a tree. And I'm like, I mean, he sees me, wow. And then I stop because the deer moves his head. And I'm like,
Whoa, whoa,
oh, well,
whoa,
I'm like, oh crap, you know.
whoa.
And so I hurry up, put another round in him. He died. Um, And looking at the shot wasn't bad. It was a little bit far back, but I don't know how it made it through that sapling. But I mean, that was a tree. There was two trees like this that I was trying to squeeze it through, and one of them it nicked it. You know, it was probably about 108-yard shot somewhere in there. But it's a
Yeah.
270. You know that it's it stacks dimes, and but sure enough, man, it somehow it nicked a sapling and still squeezed on in there and got him. But he's seen the highs, the lows, the highs, and then after that, after we cut all the deer up, and he about puked 100 times, but he made it
Oh
through.
gosh.
He told me
Did he
this
get to
year
try it?
that well
Did he
he would.
try the meat?
Oh yeah, he loves deer meat.
Okay, good.
But he told me this year he's ready. He wants to kill him a deer, his first deer, and so we don't
Oh
know. We
man.
we gonna try. We don't see what we can do, but
Man, I hope y'all get one. That'd be so cool.
yeah. Well, I don't know how my hunting season. I'm putting a lot of eggs in the basket of early season. I've
Yeah.
really tried to hone in on some good bachelor bucks and bachelor groups. To try to get some early season. The velvet hunt. Try to do that,
Yep.
and then because September 27th, little man's due, and having four other little ones running around the house, I don't know how much free time I'm gonna get. I don't know how much
Yeah.
mama bear let me out.
Yeah. Well, that's the ultimate priority there. And
Yep.
your hunting comes after that's done. But that doesn't go to say that the Lord won't bless you even more so when you get those few times to get out in the woods.
Yep.
All
Yep.
it takes a few times.
Yep.
That's all I know.
That is true.
So
I've learned that the last few seasons is really just trying to wait for the right time. It is
yep.
nice to be out there, and I know my job is giving me a very flexible job to where I can sort of hunt when I want. I can make my own schedule, being in outside sales. But I know typically most men, like I used to work, you worked a set schedule, set time, and your weekend warrior. So, man, Saturday's what you got. Saturday's what you got. But
Yep.
I've trying to play my cards right. I've just seen more deer, being more selective. Now, last year I seen about 50 spikes. I seen a lot of deer that I didn't want to see. I don't know what it was with spikes, but man, I was a daggone spike magnet, man. Um,
Yeah. They're just testing you.
yeah.
Just
Oh,
testing your
buddy, I
agility.
tell you, at the end of the season, it got a little rough for TJ, buddy. TJ's about to sling an arrow through a couple of them. Old fork buck kept coming through, and I was like, buddy, I tell you what, you better watch out because I wasn't even seeing does really. It was weird, but man, enough of me. I know you had a really good season. You had a good turkey season, as
Yes.
you always
Yeah.
do. You're a turkey killer. Um,
Well, you know, the turkeys are that's one of my pride and joys. I
mm,
mean, I first time I ever took a turkey call out, I was probably 12 years old in a camo t-shirt and blue jeans. And in Stevenson, Alabama, with a call I'd bought that afternoon with my dad and brother, a Primo's cherry, it was a Primo's, the orange crystal call.
mm.
And I went out there, I kind of learned how to scratch it a little bit. I wish I could hear what it sounded like today, what I was doing out there. But because it probably sounded like I don't know what, but all I know is that it must have been the Lord trying to just like throw something in there, like you need to be into turkeys because I had never wanted to before. I went out there, sat down against a tree in the middle of turkey season, never called a turkey before. And the first time I touched that call, I had two gobble back to me, probably 50 or 75 yards away in the
Mm.
woods. And I'm like, okay, I sat down and 10 minutes later, they're full strut walking to me. And I'm like, oh, whoa, they're right there. Just grab my gun and aim at them. They're like 50 yards. And, by that point, they're like long gone. I had no idea, but it was like, that was really cool. They responded
Yeah,
to my calls. And since that day, I have just absolutely loved it. And,
yeah,
the fact that Delaney, my soon to be wife, I, I can't even begin to explain the blessings. that have been brought to me through that
Mm,
woman.
mm,
But talk about waiting until the right time. There's that applies to everything.
mm.
I had gotten to that point in my life where I was sick of the decisions I was making with the people I chose to spend my time with,
Yep.
and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna not be searching for a girlfriend. I'm gonna hang that up. Um,
Yep.
I'm gonna hang that up, and I'm going to just focus on me, focus on, getting my life on track,
Mm.
getting my finances in order, getting my relationship right with the Lord.
Amen.
I needed some recovery time
Yeah.
and some me time. And it just out of the blue, it all unfolded into this love story that is like something that you can't even put into words and make it sound believable.
Mm.
And through that she has been she was raised in a family that deer and duck and turkey hunted, a little bit of turkey hunting, but more so like duck hunting.
Mm.
And I she really liked the idea of turkey hunting, and that is like our little thing. Now, I mean, this deer back behind me on this side over here, this deer is the
Hmm.
her first buck that she shot.
Awesome.
We got the mount back last week, I think. She got her first deer last year,
Yep.
first buck. She shot a deer before that, but the turkey hunting, that's kind of a totally different ball game when you're trying to get somebody into hunting in general.
Hmm.
In my opinion, if they're like okay with heat, getting someone into hunting, taking them turkey hunting, you're much better off with a good result of them
Yep.
wanting to go again.
Yep.
And we had amazing hunt after amazing hunt after amazing hunt. And it just goes to show that I don't want to kill something every time I go out.
It
Like
get
I
boring.
might be salty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna, you can't learn anything by that. And
Hmm.
you can't like really look into your inner being and be like, okay, why am I so frustrated? Well, you're frustrated because you did what your gut told you not to do, and you tried to push too far on that turkey. You're frustrated because you're focusing too much on killing something and not on how cool was that experience just
Yep.
then.
Amen.
And
Hmm.
my mind, when I started taking Delaney, it trained my mind to understand that like we live in God's creation and
Hmm.
what he shows us every day is unreal.
Dude.
I
Yep.
mean, it is unreal. And it is not about pulling that trigger.
Yep.
It is and she had her fair share of tough hunts where things didn't go our way, and and for a young hunter that really is into it, it's hard to not be really upset with yourself. And but I was so impressed with her, like after she had a couple misses, and after that it was like her drive got more and more, and it
Yep.
was more like that. And she now understands like where I'm at now. It's like I wish I could explain to her initially, like when I first started turkey hunting, I was I was not mad, but I was like that wasn't worth the time. If I went out there and had a bird that I was working that came to 80 yards
Mm.
and strutted for 2 hours in my face, but didn't want to commit.
Yep.
Like I was just like, oh yeah, that was just like I didn't pull the trigger, did I?
Mm.
And having Delaney with me has helped me understand that it's not, I have been so much more joyful with a mind frame that, not say that I wasn't joyful, still really being hard on myself, but it's a different type of joy where I find joy in the smallest moments
Yep.
where I could stop and say, Delaney, look at that right there and tell me that's not something you wouldn't think. That is unbelievable.
Yeah. Dude.
We witnessed some uncool, unreal stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and so I've never seen a more like beautiful animal than a turkey like strutting, like in the sun hitting it. Like it is
Yep.
just unreal. And um, you're right. I think sometimes we all want to pull the trigger, obviously, but there's so like I've learned more on deer hunting because your boy wasn't letting any turkey walk last year. I was trying to get one, you know. But on like deer hunting, I've learned more about like deer, like just watching deer. Like you can just watch them how they're maneuvering through the woods, what they're eating on, and like if you just slow down and enjoy that for a minute, like you're just witnessing creation, something that
Yeah,
hunters that I don't think we take for granted, but I think we do too in the same sense as being in his creation, those mornings watching the sunrise or in the evenings watching the sunset. Man, there are people all across this world that will not really witness what you're witnessing. Like hearing the Blue Jays fire up or, the crows just crowing, in the morning, that cool, crisp air,
hmm
and the sun peeking over and warming you up. It's like, man, there's just so many things that you can take from that, and
that's
I think
so true.
I think it's a blessing. I think, this like Romans 1 talks about, the evidence of a creator is in his creation, and I
Yep,
think that's why we feel so a lot of hunters will really wrestle and struggle with that. The woods are my church, and I don't want to get too off in the weeds there, but it's like it's easy to feel connected to the creator in his creation,
yep,
right?
that's
It's
right.
it's really easy to feel like that urge to like want to worship the Lord and just man feel connected with him there because you're surrounded by what he's created, and
That's right.
it's something that I don't ever want to lose that passion for that just to be able to pull the trigger, right? So
Right.
I have to continue to remind myself like, man, hunting is, you know, like my little slogan or whatever, hunting is essential. Like I love it. It's something that is needed. It's we can provide meat. It's something that the Lord's left us that we could do. And but
Yep,
Jesus Christ is eternal, right? And that is the
yep,
biggest picture. That is the bigger picture. And so,
that's right.
but
Well,
man,
I
dude,
will say that you have been putting some conviction on my heart about I've lived for I don't know, it's a long time with that whole excuse that the woods are my church.
oh, me too,
And
brother.
that
Yeah,
is, that is, I'm not saying that doesn't need to be taken that it's an excuse,
yeah,
because no matter what day of the week it is, the woods can absolutely be your church.
hmm,
But there is so much importance to having that church family.
oh
And
yeah,
I'll say this, that I'm still working on that
hmm,
church family and that church relationship, because I did not invest my time in that like I should have. But it's never too late.
oh
You
no,
know,
yeah,
we're actively, we've been going to a church in Dayton that Delaney grew up in, for the last several months. Her
hmm,
pastor's doing the marriage or premarital counseling,
nice, yeah,
which we finished a few weeks ago, and he'll be the officiant. But the whole idea of that, you've got to have a church family, but if that your church family is essential to all aspects of your life, and
hmm,
I've got to start putting that more into context of my life too. I'm working on
yeah,
that. I'm trying to build that family, and start that network of people that have the same, they're in the same stage of life,
yeah,
but it's not, I don't say that to take away from the true value of being with Jesus in the woods.
oh yeah, no,
There
yeah, yeah,
there is just so much, there is, I've had so many times that I know without a shadow of a doubt I was praying about something, and he has answered that prayer while I was sitting in the tree.
yeah,
I, without a shadow of a doubt, I know that has happened.
amen,
And I, some things you pray for that you might not get, and it's a lot of, I I kind of look at it like my prayers are going to me knowing that there's a higher power that's going to take care of me,
hmm,
and whether my prayer is for the right thing in my path or not, he is going to hear it, and he is going to acknowledge it in some way or another, whether I know that he has or not. And his plan is going to prevail, and his plan is good.
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
so I love the message that you portray, when you're talking about that, the whole idea of having a church family, and I
Hmm.
don't take that for granted, and I know that I have my whole life,
Yeah.
and you've been a big part of that for me to really take myself and look myself in the mirror and say,
Mm.
I'm in need of working on that as
Yeah.
well.
Well, we all do, and when people, my heart is when people hear me say that, that I'm not condemning them or anything. Because I know church hurt is a real thing. People have been hurt by, churches made up of imperfect people.
Absolutely.
And that's why I tell people all the time, hey, don't look to me for anything because I will fail you. I'm a human. I will fail you
Yeah,
at
yeah,
some point. Look to Jesus, look to his word.
that's right.
And, but if we read his word, we see that we are called to gather for church, and we need the accountability, the fellowship. We need to serve the Lord, serve his body, for others, not just ourselves. But,
Yeah,
going back to the woods, yeah, worshiping or feeling like it feels like church. Because I think some men, they feel more spiritual in the woods. So it's easy to think that that's church because when they go to church, typically, um, and this was me. Yeah, I had a drug problem, right? I was being drugged to church with my wife, when we
yeah,
first got together. I didn't really grow up in church early on. Um, in fact, I wasn't a believer, I would have believed in a creator and I would have told you like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but it's just because I'm from the South, it's just Bible
right.
Belt. Um, but when we first got together, we started going with her family and stuff, and the Lord was really starting to work on me in my life. But until I gave my life to him when my daughter was like 2. But I think most men, sadly, we have that like drug problem, right? We're being drugged there. We're not really there. But then when we go hunting, we are really there, right? That's our passion. That's
Right.
what we love to do. And I think so when we feel spiritual or feel that or even pray, in the woods, it naturally it feels, man, this is what church should feel like. I feel,
Yeah.
and so I don't ever want to take that feeling or the spirituality that does come being in his creation because you can worship Jesus anywhere. And what Deuteronomy 6 tells us to do for our kids, where you walk, where you lie down, everywhere you go, right? Worship the Lord, teach them the Lord. And it's the same thing with that. Um, but yeah, no, church is important, and I'm thankful for the body that we've been plugged into. There's things that they've come through with us and helped us, and in situations, passings or kids or
Hmm.
you name it. Church is important. But
I think
talking,
it's like a lot about that feeling of, you need to understand why church is important, and
mm,
not just like, well, you just need to be there.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think what I'm trying to get at with that is like, my conviction comes from realizing that there's a lot more to church than just going and hearing a verse or hearing a
yeah,
sermon.
amen,
Like, the church is something that I want to experience fully, and I
yeah,
need to, and seeing glimpses of that is due to understanding that I need to know more.
mm,
And not just that, you've got to realize that you don't know about the church if you don't understand that there's more to the church than just the sermon,
yeah,
and that church family to be able to lean on, and is crucial. And that's
yeah,
all I was really trying to make a point of, is that you can worship the Lord, and the Lord will accept you in any form of worship that you find. But the value in that church relationship is so crucial.
hmm absolutely, yeah, and we're all guilty of being like, I just call it back row Baptist, right? We want to slip in, we want to hear the
Hmm.
sermon, get out as fast as we can, right? We ain't talking to nobody, and
Yep.
And I think we do miss the whole, and it's easy to not feel connected to the body or feel the body when you're really not connected to it at all. Like you're trying to get out real quick. And I'll
Hmm.
tell everybody, man, the church is there to be under the pastoral leadership of a shepherd. You know, you have the accountability, the growth, but you're to be edified, you're to be instructed, you're to serve. I think everybody, if they get plugged into a church, we're called to serve the Lord. I think just finding something simple, like not everyone's going to be a pastor, not everyone's going to be the one speaking on stage or strumming the guitar or leading worship.
Yep.
But man, even like being on the greeting team and just doing something for the body, because even our body, we got fingers, eyes, mouths, toes. There's everything has a function, right?
Right.
And man, the lights don't just magically come on. Someone turns them lights on,
Yep.
And I think that when you do that, when you like submit yourself to just get plugged in, I think the Lord really starts working on your heart when you're coupling it with reading His Word.
That's right.
Um, dude, I know it's been true in my life. Now I can't speak
Yep.
for everybody, but I know that if you're seeking His will and you're doing the things that He's called us to do, you're just going to see Him move in different ways and more understanding that you're going to have. That I honestly, dude, I'm a dude from the mountain that
Hmm.
should not be where I'm at right now, and it is only by His mercy, why, and His grace that I'm here. And
Yep.
so I owe Him my life, and I've took that as seriously as I could, and I hope I have
Amen.
many many years to do it. But man, I don't want to hold you up too much. I do want to roll into we talking about Hunter's story, and we've shared a lot of just man some life changes that you've went through, some
Hmm.
difficulties and some victories you've had, and fixing to celebrate a marriage. Um,
Hmm.
but Romans 10:13 says, For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And so one thing that I wanted to share with, or not share, but have you share with the people that may be listening here or watching, is what's that time that you had that moment where you gave your life to the Lord, that you understood the gospel and stuff. And so, Seth, if you don't mind, I'd love to ask you to share your testimony and um,
Absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up in a family that had, we went to church every day or every Sunday, every Wednesday we were in church. Um, I'm not so sure that I know that I wasn't bought in fully. I'll put it that way. It's not so sure. I know that I did not fully understand, what all was involved with it. I thought that it was, just kind of a task to go to church.
mm,
And, I'm not, I do know that all of the intentions were good, but
mhm,
I think a little of the way that it presented, coupled with my kind of being an outlaw, if you will, feeling, was just of the latter and not really fully engaged. Like
mm,
it's not that I denied it by any means. It was more so that I would say that I'm a believer, but I didn't really
mhm.
understand what it meant.
Yeah.
And we went on this mission trip, and I can't remember if it was in when I was like 12 or 13. It might have been 14, but it was around that like 12, 13, 14 time. And I was part of the youth group at church on Signal Mountain. And my cousin and I went on this mission trip to Jacksonville, Florida. And we spent the weekend working with, families in need, built up some old houses that were dilapidated, just lots of different service projects that
Hmm.
weekend. And it was we were in I guess a worship time that evening where we were all in a big room together just singing different worship songs. And I don't I wish I could tell you what song it was, but I remember standing there, and it was a feeling that I had never felt before in my life.
Mm,
And it gives me chills talking about it now. It's just it was almost like all of a sudden, I just started feeling weightless. And it was like tingling, and I just couldn't help but just weep.
Mm.
And I just didn't understand at like in the moment that first when it hit me, I'm like, what is happening right now? And it was almost just like that was the first time that I had had the Lord touch me
Mm.
in a way that I'm sure he had probably attempted, but my mind was not in the place it needed to be to feel his presence.
Yeah.
And that moment, it was like, whoa, that was not of this world.
Yeah.
Like whatever I felt just then, whatever took my body over, that was not of this world. And I know that it was Jesus. Like we were in the a setting that can't be replaced. It was just the perfect storm for me to feel his presence.
Mm.
And it was almost like a lost sheep and that staff coming around my neck and just like, this is your home.
Yeah.
This is what it feels like for me to be in your arm, or for you. Like I have you in my arms all the time.
Yeah.
And that was the feeling that I could
Yeah.
only describe it as.
It's like he was drawing you to him.
I, I did not want to leave that place.
Yeah.
Like 5 hours before that, I was sitting there talking about how ready I was to go home. It's like,
Mm.
man, this has been so much work. Like, I can't wait to go home. Like, I'm so tired. And I'll be the first to admit it. I did not really want to go on that trip
Yeah.
initially.
Mm.
It was something that was a task. It was
Hmm.
another thing that was like, I got signed up for this kind of feeling.
Dude, I'll tell
And
you what, I don't mean to cut you off there, but
no,
you
please
just
do.
said something that is so true. There's a lot of times we don't want to do things. I'll tell you right now, there's times I wake up and I don't want to go to church. But I'm telling you, every time I do, I'm blessed. I don't ever leave church like, man, yeah, I really shouldn't have come today. I, it's
There's
normally,
never a regret.
yeah. And it goes back to the God's word. He blesses obedience. Even if we don't want to, you are obedient to doing, this mission trip and, worshiping in this setting or whatever. And it sounds like the Lord is drawing you, and I mean, continue on, but like it just shows that, man, the Lord blesses obedience. Obviously, we need to do it with an obedient heart, but man, I think a lot of guys and myself included, even the times where we don't want to, man, if we just do it, there's so many things the Lord may bless us and we don't even know, that'll come
That's
out of
right.
just obedience.
Yep. Well, that's very true. And after that moment, I would say that I wouldn't say that I was fully bought in still.
Hmm.
I knew what it was though.
Yeah.
That was the key. That
Yeah.
was the key.
Yeah.
That the key in all of it was that I knew that feeling.
Yeah.
And I knew when the Lord was speaking to me, and I knew when something that was not of the Lord. Well, I didn't know, but I had a feeling of when the Lord was speaking to me, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, I went through stages of my life after that were not of the Lord. I've been through my plenty of fair shares of situations that pulled me away from the Lord, and the testing of my faith, the going back to my mom,
Mm.
I we had numerous pastors come in to pray over us, to you know speak life over us. We had a Pentecost. We were trying all options.
Mm.
We did not. We had a Pentecostal style preacher come in, and I'd felt the Holy Spirit work in ways I'd never felt before there too. It brought me right back to that feeling. But the point I'm trying to make there is that we brought so many different avenues and ways of bringing the Lord's help into our life to heal my mom that we could. And at the end of the day, it it really it neutralized, in a sense. I don't know if that's the right word, but it neutralized my feelings towards prayer.
Mm.
And like, why is there a reason for all this? Like,
Yeah.
why are we doing all this praying? We have prayed for all of this, and
Yeah.
there's nothing but worse
Yeah.
happening, and
Yeah.
it's getting worse and worse. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, are you hearing the prayers
Mm.
or are you not? And if you are, that means you're choosing to not do anything about it.
Mm.
And that's the demon's way of talking to me at that time.
Yeah.
Like, and I did not know how to handle that, and I went through a lot of different stages through my mom's passing, but what I do know is that at the end of that whole situation, looking back at everything that went transpired even before her passing, I know that there was a plan in all of it. I know
Mm.
that there was a good in it. I know that she had a smile on her face the whole time.
Mm.
And I couldn't, it wasn't possible for me to see that in that light
Yeah.
when she was going through it and right after she passed.
Yeah.
But through, and I'll be honest, I did not grieve how I should have.
Yeah.
I massively delayed the grief. I put it off. I didn't because in my mind, I felt like she was going to be okay.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, there's no she passed, but in my mind, I was like, there's no way that's real. Like
Mm.
I just didn't conceptualize it until it's like, whoa, like
Yeah.
my mom's not going to be at my wedding.
Mm.
Like my mom's not going to be there to raise my children,
Yeah.
help me raise my children. It starts hitting you in ways that you didn't expect it
Yeah.
to.
It's
And
the silence when, when everything, I don't know about you, but when Hunter passed, you're so busy. You got all the things going on. You got the funeral, got the arrangements, got family, got friends checking in on you. It's the
Mhm.
weeks and weeks after where there's silence and then it hits you like, man, there's there's no more,
Mhm.
but we have that hope, of you're praying for healing for your mom, and you shared the beautiful testimony of all the people she reached and served the Lord. And so
Mhm.
she's healed with the Lord now. So your prayers were answered in an even far better way than they could have been here,
That's right.
and that one day, you know, we'll be reunited again. And man, um, it's like share with Hunter's story is like, even though he might have struggled with something, I know he trusted the Lord for his salvation, and his addiction didn't define him. Jesus defined him. And
Right.
I can't wait for the day to, we don't know. I know there's a feast, there's a marriage, there's a reuniting, and
Mhm.
hopefully I get to see him and rejoice that, um, it's not goodbye, or it's not
That's right.
over. It's just see you later, really.
That's right. Well,
Uh,
one other thing to add to that whole thing with my mom is, it was a godsend, not the illness, but the way he prepared the family for the illness.
mm,
Because my brother had just gotten out of med school. He was a nurse anesthetist. He was about to take a job in Chattanooga. And then we got the prognosis of my mom's not looking good and this and that. So he was able to take the position of hospice. We did not have hospice there. It was totally our family. We got to live our family, and my brother took care of her.
man.
He was able to make her as comfortable as she needed to be with all of the medication she needed. He knew exactly what to do. And like in ways, I look at my brother as one of her angels
Mm,
because I can't imagine the difficulty
yeah.
doing some of the things that he was doing for her.
Mm,
And I, it is a blessing from the man upstairs that she had her son like that
mm,
to take care of her. And on her last breath, every single one of her family members was in that room with her.
Mm.
Y- I'm talking large, both my aunts, both my uncles, my grandmother. I'm talking everybody in her immediate family was with her.
Man.
And I don't see how in that doesn't happen. And she waited for all of us to be there to to know that she was going to be okay and that she was in the hands of the Lord.
Mm.
And it's all it was a terrible time, but it was a time that made me realize that there was good involved, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's powerful, man. I know that's emotional, and I'm thankful that you shared it. I know it's blessed me. I'm sure to bless others. I know, I knew about your mom, and I didn't know if you was gonna share that or not, because I know that can be hard, even when years pass. We
hmm
miss our loved ones. But so in
yeah.
that time, would you say that it was during that time or at that moment at the missions that you went on where you like gave your life to the Lord? I know you said you felt some feeling, but do you know like when was the time that you, I guess, called on the Lord?
I would, I would say that it was one of those times where I had given my life to the Lord when I was at that Jacksonville retreat.
Mm.
However, I hit one of those walls where I was like kind of questioning things a little bit
Yeah,
with mom's passing. And I don't know how to put that in a way that makes it seem like I didn't give up,
yeah,
because I hadn't given up. I was still praying. I was still very honest with my prayer and not just praying like this is just 'cause I can pray.
mm,
It's like I had confidence in that, but it was small things like the doctor coming out after the surgery she never recovered from. He came out of the operating room smiling ear to ear and said, "Your mom is 100% cancer free." Now, that kind of hit, it's she never got out of the hospital. I mean, she was stayed in the hospital for months after that surgery in Baltimore. She came back to the house and she never recovered. She never ate a real meal after that surgery,
mm,
and it's like those kind of here and there moments where it was like, "Oh, this is an answer to prayer." But no, wait, it's not.
yeah,
That made me question things, but looking back on it, I don't know that it was necessarily a naive thing to question it. Because
no, it's a
it
human
goes
thing.
back to, yeah, it goes back to the Lord, I believe, help me with my unbelief.
Yeah,
Like there's part of me that is trying my best to comprehend how this could happen if I'm supposed to believe.
yeah,
But most of me wants to fully believe there's good in this, and I think that the turning point and all of that was that the day of her funeral.
mm,
When I saw that amount of people there, it's not that I gave my life to Christ again, but it was almost like what am I thinking?
yeah,
Like where did any of this questioning of the Lord's plan come from? Because that's clearly
yeah.
from the devil.
He gave you clarity.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. I think the when you're touched by the Lord in multiple ways, but that first time you're touched like I was in Jacksonville, where I think if I had to put my hand on that time, that was when I fully recommitted my life and said that prayer again that opened me up to committing. And I went through that period of wavering trust
yeah,
and challenging my faith.
mm,
But it's like breaking a bone. When your bone reheals, typically it's stronger than when it was broken,
yeah,
before it was broken. And it's that bond of the the questioning of my faith helped me to understand that my faith is now stronger than it ever has been.
yeah. Amen. I mean, we see it in scripture, the enemy's going to sling, some fiery darts at us, right? He's going to, and I tell everybody, man, Salvation is so simple. The simplicity of the gospel, you put your faith in Jesus and what he's done, and you're saved. Now, walking with the Lord, sanctification comes after, but you're going to be attacked. Like when you are removed from the enemy's family and you have been adopted into God's family, he's lost you. The enemy's lost you. So
Yep.
now all he wants to do is sideline you. He wants to say those things, get that thought, that, depressed state that, man, I'm not worthy, or, nothing's happening, or, and it can get us sidelined because he don't want you winning more people to the Lord. He don't want you taking more people. And just going back to your mom, man, it's such a beautiful testimony of all the people that come. I pray that when my time comes, that I have that amount of people that can say, you know, that hopefully I led them to the Lord, or, did good things or
Hmm.
whatever. And so it's just a testimony of who she was, and who she is, and living it out in her kids, still to this day. And so I'm thankful that you shared that, and I'm thankful that you're, a brother in Christ. And I look forward to the years you have with your wife, and, as you're wrestling and trying to figure out, church and things. I know that if you're just seeking his will and you're reading his word, y'all find a place you need to be at, whether it's her
Yep.
home church or wherever it's at. The Lord will guide you. You just got to be open to it, and it'll happen, man.
That's
But
right.
but dude, I appreciate you coming on. I know we've been going for a pretty good while now, and so
Yeah.
I gotta get some of these kids into bed. My
Yeah,
wife, she's gonna be
man.
back from the gym and be like, "What are you doing?" You know? But
Well, I certainly appreciate you having me on and letting me share some, some stories and some stuff about me, and hopefully we can get together and do some hunting this year together.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, this year I might be slim with the little one, but I'll definitely take you up on that if we can, and we'll meet up, do some hunting, and definitely turkey season, springtime, something like that. But
Yeah, man. Well, hey, I'm not going anywhere. Hopefully, I'll be here for years to come. So, any year.
are you still on the mountain? Or
I'm
no?
here in Saudi now, right at the
Okay,
base of the mountain.
nice. Yeah,
Yep.
we go through there quite a bit, going to see our parents and Dunlap,
Okay.
but other than that, man, you have a good night. You don't do you have like a channel or anything you want to drop? I don't know if you have any like.
I mean, I don't have a YouTube channel.
Okay,
I mean, I just got Cast and Blast on Instagram,
okay,
Cast and Blast underscore TM.
okay.
But I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't share a whole lot anymore until it comes to deer season and I'm in duck season. I might post some stories and stuff. So I might get back into it though. We'll see.
Yeah, you never know, man. Well, dude,
Yeah.
you have a great night. I appreciate you, man, and stay in touch.
Sounds great. I appreciate it, TJ.
See you, buddy.
See you, man.